Hey everyone, welcome back to OC Outdoorsman. We have a big group going out kayak fishing this morning. Hope I don't leave anyone out. Let's see. There's Glenn, Kevin, Cesar, Sean, and Linda. Here we are at the Kelp line. You can see Sean and Glenn there in the yellow kayaks, and as I pan over to my right, you're going to see what, let me get my big head out of the way here. There are Linda and Cesar. Linda's in the yellow yak, Cesar's in camouflage, and then Kevin in the red kayak there right by my flag. And here in the background you can see the beginning of the strand, and then back to Sean and Glenn. I only brought shrimp with me today, and the first fish I land is a rock wrasse, and for that species, this is actually a pretty decent size. However, I'm gonna let him go back. This next fish is a female sheephead, and you can tell the difference because they don't have that distinctive black bar going across their side, and they're mostly pink in color. It was a pretty productive morning. I was catching fish left and right, so I'm going to speed up the footage here as you see me catch and release most of these guys. As you can see, the sun finally decided to come out. I almost forgot to mention that a boat full of scuba divers anchored up right next to us, and then they went on to dive directly beneath our kayaks. As a result, the bite completely shut down. The fish were spooked, so that's why I ended up moving into a new spot. Here I landed a short sheephead that I went on to release. So as you can see, the action was pretty good. I was catching a lot of fish, it's just most of them were short, so for the most part it was catch and release all day long. This one, however, measured right in at 12 inches, so he was legal. At the end of the day, I only kept 3 fish. Now check this out. I hook into a fish and he decides to swim right back into the kelp. So I have to detach myself. You can see I'm actually latched on to the kelp and maneuver my kayak around in an attempt to untangle him from the kelp. It's one of the dangers of fishing these kelp beds is that they will occasionally tangle themselves up, and I finally, after about 10 minutes, get him loose, and look at how small he is. I spent so much time trying to free him, and he's just this little dinky fish. Take a look at the flag behind me there. You can see that the winds really started to pick up, but I wanted to try one more time, so I cast out a shrimp and it gets slammed on the descent, so I knew it wasn't a sheephead. As I reel it in, I could feel the head shakes, and I figured, okay, this has got to be some kind of bass, and sure enough, it turned out to be a decent calico bass. However, after measuring him, he was just shy of 14, so I let this fish go. Here's a better look at him. take a look at the water around me, notice that the swells are starting to become more frequent and slightly more bigger. So after landing that bass, I decide to head straight back to the harbor. Now that I'm back behind the protection of that break wall, the waters are always calmer, and from here on out, it's just an easy ride back. So as I return to the landing point, I'm going to speed up the footage here as I make my way back to Baby Beach. Now, it may not be evident, but the wind was still pretty strong, so it was a smoother ride, but a slower one because the wind was blowing towards me. It was in my face, and that really will slow you down. But it's nice to not have the swells constantly pummeling the hull of your kayak. Now, when you get to the bridge here, that's a pretty good landmark because at this point, you're an easy 10 minutes away from Baby Beach. So there's Baby Beach, and as I get closer, it's time to put my Mirage Drive away and switch to paddles. Fortunately, it looks like most people have cleared the launch and landing area, so I should have an easy path back across the sand to my truck. You know, since my last fishing trip out of Redondo last week, my back hasn't been the same, and I must be getting old. It was still sore, and I was struggling just to pull my kayak back up on the beach today. It was pretty warm. Temperatures hovered right in the low 80s. And as you can see, everyone and their grandma was here today. People just flocked to the beach. Well, I'd like to thank you for watching, and if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks again.